Okay, so this is one of our fume hoods. They all have the same basic setup to them. This piece up here is a zone presence sensor. So what the zone presence sensor, or ZPS for short, what the zone presence sensor does is it gives us the ability to, if there's nobody in front of the hood, we reduce the face velocity from 100 feet per minute down to 60 feet per minute. When it goes into the setback mode, it'll tell you. Right now it says normal mode on the fume hood display, and it shows 99 feet per minute. You would see 60 feet per minute, and it'll say standby mode. That'll also reflect on the graphics. If you ever see a hood is in standby mode or 60 feet per minute, that's why. Now, one thing I will say about that is if the hood is closed and it's in standby mode, you will not see 60 feet per minute. The reason for that being that the zone presence sensor lets the face velocity set point change, but it does not change the design CFM, so the design volume of air going out of here. So if the valve is already at its minimum because the sash is closed, it's not going to override it any further closed. But if the sash is open and it goes into setback mode, you'll see the face velocity drop down until somebody walks in front of it. That's something that we're able to adjust the time. I've set them all for 2 minutes and 5 minutes. So what I mean by that is if I was to walk in front of the hood and go past it, it would be 2 minutes before it goes into standby mode again. The way that the zone presence sensor is working is basically comparing the megapixels, taking constant pictures, and then it also has infrared. And if we were to come and something changes, it has a stored memory of what its reference should be. So if we brought a stool over and set a stool down and left again, it would be 5 minutes before it remaps that stool into part of its reference zone. On the fume hood display where it says normal mode right now, it will typically, if you get an alarm of any kind, it will tell you what the alarm is. So we have the ability to put these rooms to emergency modes. There's no scheduled emergency modes right now, but if it's ever said, hey, we want to have for this room or the whole floor, we want to have an emergency mode where we can write it and we go full exhaust and close the supply, or vice versa, put everything to minimum. We can have emergency modes that are set up and writable through the BAS system. Anytime you're in an emergency mode, the hoods are going to give you an alarm, and it'll tell you that it's in an emergency mode when it's alarming. If you go into a flow alarm because your fans are down, it's going to tell you, it's going to be an alarm, and it's going to beep, and it's going to tell you flow alarm. We looked at the vertical sash sensor. If that cable or the wire to the vertical sash sensor gets broken, it's going to tell you broken sash cable. If you open the sash too high, it goes into alarm and it tells you sash open, over limit, lower sash. And it's telling you that you're in an unsafe airflow. These are mutable. The mute will stay until the status changes. So the status change can be that the alarm cleared, or the status change, it's a status change of the hood. It can also be a status change of occupancy. So if you are no longer in front of it, and it was in a standard mode, now it's trying to go to setback mode, but it still doesn't have enough airflow, it's going to reinitiate that flow alarm so that people can't just mute that and forget that they have an alarm while you still have one. With the zone presence sensor, that's it fails to the safe modes, fails to normal. So if you ever pulled, there's only two terminal blocks on it. If either one was ever pulled off, it's going to stay at 100 feet per minute all the time. The vertical sash sensor is up over top here, unless you particularly want to. I wasn't going to go and open that up. Like it's just transferring off of our vertical sash sensor onto a pulley that, looks like what's that wheel that's up there. It's just transferring off of one onto the other. The hoods, there's two buttons on here on the display itself. This one here is the emergency exhaust button. Once I pressed it, it now says emergency exhaust. What that does is it gives you the ability, if there's ever a spill in the hood, you press that emergency exhaust button and the Phoenix valve goes to its max design flow, regardless of sash position. So if there's a spill, you can hit that button and close the sash and you're still at your max CFM, even with the sash closed. And it's going to tell you emergency exhaust. The other thing to remember, if somebody's over here playing and doesn't realize what they hit, and you have a call that, hey, my fume hood is in alarm, and you come and see it says emergency exhaust, all you have to do is hit the emergency exhaust button again, and it's going to go back to its normal. You can have it in emergency exhaust and silence the audible alarm as well by hitting the mute button. Any questions on fume hood display?
It's on right now, correct?
It's on right now. If it wasn't on, we wouldn't have green and it wouldn't say normal. It would say flow alarm. So if you ever come to it and it says flow alarm, first thing to look at, if it's all your hoods, then there's something going on with your fan. If it's one hood, then there could be a tube pulled off. It could be somebody let plastic or something get sucked up into the back of the hood and it's causing a restriction. But if it's all the hoods, it's a fan. If it's an individual hood, then you gotta look.
We get plastic on it, or junk sucked into it.
Yeah. Any questions? Cool.
Where are those floor vents you were talking about?